Yesterday morning, me and my cousins decided to do a little cousin brunch, and we were sitting at the table, and I had my coffee right there, and I reached over for the salt to put some salt in my coffee, and one of my cousins was in the middle of telling a story and looked at me with a side eye and was like, "That's salt." And my sister was sitting right next to me, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, we know it's salt." And because my cousin was like, "I didn't know, I thought you were mistaking it for sugar, because it's so weird that you put salt in it." But I always put salt in my coffee because I'm going to read you this passage from A Course in Miracles that I read this morning about lack and how I relate it to nutrient depletion. But if you don't know, caffeine is also a stimulant similar to alcohol. So when we drink it, we basically deplete boatloads of salt and minerals. So I just like putting salt in my coffee. I feel it makes me feel in my brain like, okay, I'm going through this dehydration, but I'll put a little bit of salt in it, so maybe I'll retain some of the water. It might not be true, it might be true, I don't know, whatever. But I like the bitter. I drink my coffee black. I like it bitter and savory. So anyway, it was just funny, and I just was laughing about that this morning because the way he said, he was like, "That's salt." Like, it was so funny. Oh, you know. Anyway, this passage, it is called The Illusion of Needs. It's from A Course in Miracles, this book that I read almost every day, A Foundation for Inner Peace. There's no author, but it says, "You who want peace can find it only by complete forgiveness. No learning is acquired by anyone unless he wants to learn it and believes in some way that he needs it. While lack does not exist in the creation of God, it is very apparent in what you have made. It is, in fact, the essential difference between them. Lack implies that you would be better off in a state somehow different from the one you were in." Reminds me of depression, wanting things to be different. Why is everything like this? "Until the separation, which is the meaning of the fall, nothing was lacking. There were no needs at all. Needs arise only when you deprive yourself. You act according to the particular order of needs you establish. This in turn depends on your perception of what you are." Every single day, lacking minerals and nutrients puts us in a state of stress in the body. It puts us in a state of insulin resistance, where we're gaining weight in the midsection, where we just feel tired and our brains are starving, and we start to develop these chronic issues of mineral depletion, right? Chronic disease is really just mineral disease, because if our immune system is overactivated, it's working harder than it needs to be, the body goes into a dehydrated state, and it just becomes hard to get out of this cycle. But you can get out of this cycle every single morning. You wake up, you go into the sunlight, line yourself up, sunlight goes and feeds our mitochondria. So the first way you can go through your nutrient intake is sunlight, and then amino and fatty acids, feeding our bodies these minerals like sodium. Put salt in your coffee, whatever. The body has a chance to relax and be at rest. I stayed up late last night because I was visiting with one of my cousins who's in town, who I haven't seen in 2 years. And I usually, when I woke up this morning, I stayed up till midnight, and I usually go to bed at 9 o'clock. I felt hungover this morning when I woke up. So I hydrated, went on a walk, and then I ate some ground beef, and I feel so much better. I feel like my brain was hungry, starving when I woke up again. I felt again just hungover, and a lot of us feel hungover when we wake up. What is a hangover? It's a dehydrated state. The brain needs minerals and nutrients. We're in an insulin resistant state. So anything that we eat, our hunger hormone is going to be more prevalent when we wake up and we feel this way. Our hunger hormone is getting us to go for the donuts, go for the high caloric foods, because it's essentially saying we're starving. When you eat these processed foods, when you give into this desire, this need, it doesn't actually satiate, right? It just creates more insulin resistance. So knowing that you stayed up late and that your hunger hormone is more prevalent, even if you just had a night out with friends, eating mineral-dense food can put us back into a state of insulin sensitivity. Dr. Rhonda Patrick's great resource for that. One dose of high creatine can tampen down those pre-diabetic levels in the blood, insulin-resistant levels in the blood the next day. High ghrelin, high hunger hormone, by just satiating the body, giving high-quality salt. It's so beautiful. A sense of separation from God is the only lack you really need. Correct. And I used to have a problem with God, so I always feel compelled to mention that. God in physics, in religion they call it God, in physics they call it the quantum field. In physics and biology, God would be the presence of a relaxed state in the body. It would be the presence of being in the rest or digest versus you're either with God or you're in hell, heaven or hell. Heaven would be relaxation, lower cortisol, balance cortisol levels, right? Hell would be a state of tension, fight or flight, high beta brainwave state in the brain. We cannot get into that relaxed state. That would be away from God, according to physics and biology, how I look at it. Religion is just designed to teach health. So I came across the belief of that years ago. The sense of separation would have never arisen if you had not distorted your perception of truth and had thus perceived yourself as lacking. The idea of order of needs arose because having this fundamental error, you have already fragmented yourself into levels with different needs. As you integrate, you become one, and your needs become one accordingly. Unified needs lead to unified action because this produces a lack of conflict. I like this sentence. As you integrate, you become one, and your needs become one accordingly. So what does that mean? And it reminds me of the brainwave states. When you sit down, let's say you're in this high fight or flight response. I'm in the beta wave frequency. I'm in this highly caffeinated, highly stimulated state. My heart rate is up. My thoughts won't stop racing. I can't slow down, sit down and slow down. When you decide to read the book by Breath by James Nestor, and then you decide to go into a meditative state, meditation is not about clearing out your thoughts. It's about slowing down your breath. Sure, slowing down your breath is also correlated to emptying of thoughts, right? Because I'm a speed racer, my breath is high, high, high. But I want to focus on my breath because I have trouble getting my thoughts to slow down. I was speaking to somebody about this yesterday. They said, I can't meditate because I can never clear out my thoughts. What if meditation wasn't about clearing out your thoughts? What if it was only about slowing down your respiratory rate? And I talked about this yesterday. Book by James Nestor, Breath, talked about having a feather below your nose. You are breathing so slow as to not move this feather. So if I take a big deep breath in, I'm going to suck that feather up to my nose. I don't want to do that. I want to breathe nice and slow to keep that feather still. Same thing when I'm breathing out. If I breathe out too fast, I'm going to move the feather. I want to keep it as slow as possible. You're focusing on your breath when you do meditation because trying to empty out your thoughts, just like for me, never worked. Has never worked. You focus on your breath and then you change your thoughts, right? So this would be a more bottom-up approach. I'm focusing on my biochemistry, the result of what it would be like to be into a meditative state. If I cleared my thoughts, I would be relaxed, my breathing rate would slow down, right? I would get into a theta wave, a really slow brainwave state. Okay, so I'm going to work on clearing my thoughts, but I can't clear my thoughts. Every time I sit down, speed racer, boom, 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 boom. I get a moment of clarity, and then I think of something else, boom, 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 boom. I'm not focused on my thoughts, because I'm going to get lost in the thoughts and the sauce. There's so much to think about all the time. I want to focus on something that is tangible, graspable. I sit down, I set my phone for 4 minutes. If you can't do it, set it for 1 minute, set it for 2 minutes. And I'm just not moving the feather, breathing as deeply and as slowly as possible. So going back to that line, if I do that, if I focus on slowing down my respiratory rate, the result of that is going to be a different brainwave state. My thoughts will change. My perspective on the world changes. Also, my needs for nutrients. So when we're in that high beta wave state, high fight or flight, our nutrient intake is increased, right? So everything is rolling, okay? I'm depleting at a fast rate. I need more magnesium, more potassium, more calcium, more sodium, right? If I'm drinking caffeine, I'm depleting my sodium, right? If I slow everything down, I actually slow down my nutrient depletion rate, right? I don't have to eat as much, right? I don't have to, I'm not in this fatigued state. My body is more energy efficient. And that's what you want to focus on, because as we age, as we get into these chronic disease states, our respiratory rate picks up. Cortisol levels pick up. Fight or flight response picks up. So simplify it. Keep it simple. Nutrient-dense foods, number one, to put my body into a state of, to give it the basic foundation of what it needs. Protein is so important. Animal-based proteins have everything we need. Iron, zinc, copper, selenium, B vitamins, so important. Creatine, so important. Fatty acids, so important. Things you're not going to find in plant-based proteins, I'm telling you. Knock the birdie out with one stone. Foods, and then sitting down to meditate. You got to be able to slow it down. Why am I not able to sit still with myself and also just focus on the breath? So anyway, I hope this video is helpful for you in some way. It's a beautiful day. You are so gorgeous. And just a last reminder that faith is your fortune. What you see in the mirror is very inaccurate. Our perception is so limited. That's why we use tools in physics, and that's why we use microscopes to see this, because our vision is so limited. Our perspective is so limited. Relaxation is who you truly are. Tension is who you think you should be. So when you go in the mirror and you're like, man, I hate this pimple that's popped up, hate my midsection, right? You're not seeing yourself accurately. Close your eyes and put your center of attention into the center of your heart. And your immune system, our immune system, the thymus gland sits right next to the heart. So picture that thymus gland, picture that heart, that blood flow, expand it out, right? Tension would be a contraction. Relaxation, I'm spreading my blood vessels. I'm sending my heart, all my immune cells to the tips of my fingers. Hallmarkers of diabetes type 2, insulin resistance, is a lack of blood flow out to the extremities. This is very important where we do gas exchange. It's happening primarily in the capillaries. So these tips of our fingers, we want to expand. And your mind is so powerful, you can do this. Okay, send the warmth out from your heart to the tips of your toes, the tips of your fingers. I'm trying to think of anything else. I really love you. I think you're so beautiful and intelligent. If nobody tells you that today, or if it's been a while, it's always true. You've always been this beautiful. You've always been this strong. You've never needed someone to tell you this in order to get along. So anyway, where does clarity come from? That's the question in front of me. Where does clarity come from? Where does confusion come from? And may you always be blessed with the clarity to know what is and what isn't meant for you. Your immune system is your intuition. It's guiding you. So ask yourselves to guide you in your day. What can I do that will put my body into a state of health? What would my morning look like if I was truly in line with myself? What would be the actions that I would take? What would be the foods that I would eat? Guide me. Anyway, I love you so much. I'll catch you later.